At what age were you when your parents divorced?
It was around the time my sister was born, so that was like 96. I was 5 actually.
What age were you when your parents divorced?
My parents divorced when I was 5, but they separated when I was age 2.
How was your parents' relationship after their divorce?
Well, as I can recall, I started seeing my dad a lot less. And after a while, I stopped living with both my parents and just my mother. They had a lot of disagreements as well. Some I didn't understand, but that's when I knew for a fact that their relationship was pretty much over.
What kind of disagreements?
Well, as far as the ones that I understand is visitation. That's what I pretty much know about as far as the legal issues.
How was your parents' relationship after their divorce?
After my parents divorced, they had a pretty good relationship. That's all I ever knew. They always made sure that when I was around that everything was, okay, and that they had a pretty amicable relationship, I could say. They always made sure that they were getting along and that I always saw a positive side. Just them getting along, so I guess I wouldn't see anything negative going on.
Who did you live with after your parents' divorce?
My mother and my sister.
Who did you live with after your parents' divorce?
After my parents divorced, I lived with my mom, and I still do.
Do you think it would have been easier to live with your dad than your mom?
That question kind of goes both ways, because in some ways it could be easier to live with my dad, and in some ways it could be easier to live with my mother. But overall, I just feel like a mother can't teach certain things that a dad can teach a son. And just like that goes both ways as well. A man can't teach a daughter certain things that a mother can, really embrace the topics that they can really touch about certain situations in life. So that's pretty much how I feel about it.
Do you think it would have been easier to live with your dad instead of your mom?
No, absolutely not. I know how my dad is, and for me, living with him, I just feel like it would have been a chore, and I just don't feel like I would have been able to really grow and thrive like I've been able to living with my mom. And I feel like she's more of a take the initiative. She's like that proactive person, and he's that reactive person. So the two of us together, I just don't think it would have been good at all. Mm-mm.
How do you think the divorce of your parents affected you as a child?
Honestly, I think it did make a big difference as far as the way that I look at people who were raised by both of their parents in the house. Like, they have a better understanding of how both genders operate and pretty much have a more of a respect level than a lot of people that were only raised under a single parent roof. And it may be different from males and females, but as a male, I do have some type of resentment for my dad because he didn't really raise me all of my life. So it did kind of affect me.
How do you think your parents' divorce affected you as a child?
I really don't think my parents' divorce had a had an effect on me. I personally think that life was better because my parents were divorced, and I guess that's just because I didn't know them to be married. So for me, I always knew having 2 Christmases and, you know, 2 whatever holidays. I always had 2 of everything, and I could go here, I could go there. So for me, I pretty much enjoyed it. Now, I know I had other friends that when their parents are going through divorces, they were actually upset and distraught. And of course, I'm thinking, it's not that serious, it's a divorce. So I guess for me, it didn't really have an effect.
Have your parents' divorce placed long-term effects on you?
I mean, not really. I think it may have affected the way that I handle certain relationships, but I can cope with my parents being divorced.
Have your parents' divorce placed long-term effects on you?
I think the only long-term effect that I can think their divorce has played on me is I'm very cautious, I guess, when seeking someone, I guess, to date or going into a relationship. I'm very cautious with picking that person, I guess, because I see what their relationship has turned into. And of course, nobody gets married to get divorced, but I feel like when I'm going into it and at the stage I am now in my life, I feel like I have to be careful with who I get because I want to try to avoid that happening to me. And of course, I know I can't avoid it, but I'm very cautious to try to ensure that that won't be me.
If you could go back in time, what would you change?
To be honest, I wouldn't change anything because at the end of the day, we're all adults, and I don't let things in the past like that dwell upon my life, because in that case I wouldn't be where I am today. And I feel like, you know, if it wasn't meant to be, it just wasn't meant to be.
If you could go back in time, what would you change?
Honestly, if I could go back in time, I wouldn't change anything. I feel like things happened the way they were supposed to happen. And I don't think that if I went back in time and made, you know, change that my parents would be married or something, I can't say that my life would be any better than it is now. So I'm just kind of enjoying life where it is.